Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Podcasting Podcast, where passion, purpose, and podcast strategy come together to help you amplify your voice without the burnout. And I'm your host, Demetria Zinga, founder of the Soul Podcasting Collective, a boutique podcast production agency where I help coaches, consultants, and creative entrepreneurs launch and grow their shows with confidence and purpose. And I'm also a podcast coach and strategist, and I love helping podcasters like you move from overwhelmed and overthinking to clear, consistent, and confident behind the mic. If you want more support for your own podcasting journey, you can always find me at soulpodcasting.com, where I offer free resources, personalized podcast audits, and one-on-one strategy sessions to help you refine your message and grow your show intentionally. All right, so today's episode is a special one because I've been getting this question a lot lately, and it is, how do I start a podcast when nobody knows me yet? That's a good question. It's something that I've asked myself quite a few times over the years, and I love this question because honestly, it is one of the most real concerns that people have when they're just starting out. And this is, again, one of those short solo sessions where I sit down and grab my trusty Blue Yeti mic and record straight from my phone box setup with my Amazon pop filter. Nothing fancy, nothing overproduced, just real talk to you. And here is the truth. You don't need expensive gear. You don't need a big following. You don't need a lot of industry connections to start a podcast that matters. Really, all you need is a voice, a message, and the willingness to show up, even when nobody's listening yet. So let's talk about how to actually start a podcast when no one knows you and why that might just be your biggest advantage. Let's start with this. Having no audience is not a problem. It is actually a gift because when you're brand new, you have total creative freedom. That's the way I want you to see it, at least. You have no expectations, no critics, no pressure to sound perfect. You've got to experiment though. You've got to find your tone, your rhythm, your signature style, all without the spotlight. So this is a powerful thing to have at your disposal, that you don't have a lot of pressure. Because the thing is, once your audience does start to grow, it'll be because they connected to the real you and not the polished performing version of you. So that's going to be helpful for you so that you don't have the pressure of being something you're not, right? I remember when I first started podcasting many moons ago, I had maybe 10 listeners, and one of them was probably my mom, to be honest. But I kept going, and I treated every episode like a mini workshop for just one person. And I believe that was the mindset that built long-term momentum. Now, I've had my rough spots where along my journey, I started trying to make different pivots into what I thought podcasting was supposed to be, attempting to make it radio quality and sound like the radio guys out there. But when I came back to myself and to who I am and what I'm actually doing behind the mic, it became more real for me. It became a warm space, an inviting space, and a meaningful place for me to share my information, my knowledge, my life with my audience. And I believe that is the mindset that builds this long-term momentum. It's to create as if your dream listener is already tuning in, right? Even if they're not already. So instead of worrying that nobody knows you yet, you want to flip the script and see it as your training ground. That's where you build your confidence, you build your storytelling muscle, and your message starts to become clearer to you so that you can be more clear when you share your message to others. The thing that I always say on this podcast is to speak as though you're speaking to one person and not an entire crowd. I believe that's something that will instantly shift your energy behind the mic if you stop trying to talk to everybody. I've heard podcast episodes where it sounds like they're just talking to everyone, like you all, and it's this whole idea of this plural y'all. Like it's like you all, everyone, everybody, right? Not a one-on-one type of audience connection. So when you're new, it's tempting to think, I need more people. I need bigger numbers. But podcasting doesn't quite work that way. I believe that podcasting is more intimate than it is anything else. And I believe that your voice is literally in someone's ears, not just everybody's ears, but one person while they're driving, while they're cooking, cleaning, walking their dog, doing the things they do on an everyday basis. I believe that is when you are making that biggest connection, is when you think one-on-one. It's a one-on-one moment with them. So instead of imagining a huge audience, a stadium filled with people, when you're talking to them, you're talking to one person. So right now I'm talking to you. I may be talking to hundreds of people, but I'm talking to you. So I want you to picture your ideal listener, the person that you're hoping that you're speaking to when you record your episode, and I want you to talk to that person. Maybe he or she is sitting at their desk trying to figure out how to grow their business or find their creative confidence. Maybe he's on his commute, he's feeling stuck and looking for inspiration. Maybe that person is someone that needs your assistance because she's going through a really hard time and she needs some encouragement, or she's really stuck on the vision for her business or stuck on how to take better care of her health. Talk to her as though she's your friend. Talk to him as though he is your personal client. Picture that ideal listener. And when you talk directly to that one person, your message hits deeper. And what happens next is that one listener, that one person will feel seen and understood. I've seen that happen over and over again in my communications to my audience, whether it's through my podcast or through a newsletter. I actually get feedback, one-on-one, direct feedback from one person to that email that I may have sent to thousands of people, but I'll get these personal replies to my email as though I was talking to that one person. And it makes it personalized. And of course, I take the time to reply to every email that someone sends me. And I think it's important to do that and to connect with your reader if you're sending out a newsletter. And I do the same thing for whenever I receive a voice note on my website. So again, I'm going to share that because I shared it last time and I want to make sure that I share it again. But on my website, there's a tab on the right corner. It's a pink tab with a little microphone and it says, leave me a voicemail. It is my SpeakPipe and it is there for you to leave a message. And I am happy to reply to you and to leave a message back or to send you an email, to contact you and reach out. For me, this is part of the podcasting journey, is to communicate with my audience in whatever ways that is possible to do, right? And sometimes it's just difficult when, social media is bombarding us every day. The feeds are just going by so quickly, and it's hard to really make those meaningful connections, I think. And at least with my Instagram account and with my personal socials, I find it difficult to create those one-on-one moments. But sometimes, once in a while, I'll get a DM in Instagram or I'll get a reply in my LinkedIn inbox. But I find that for me, it has been really helpful to send out those newsletters where I get replies, and also to invite my listeners to leave a voicemail for me. But find ways that work for you. Create a system so that your listener feels that you're being one-on-one with them. When a listener feels heard and understood, they go and tell friends, they share your episode with others, and that's how your audience starts to grow organically. Connection actually comes before conversion. Always. If you want to convert your listener to a buyer in terms of your sales pipeline and your marketing funnel, all of that takes place by first making that connection with your listener. Or if it's a YouTube video, your viewer. If it's a blog or an email, your reader. You want to be making those connections. So you don't grow faster by trying to be everywhere. So I want to encourage you to grow faster by getting clear. So focus on clarity before you focus on growth. Clarity is magnetic. Ask yourself, does my podcast title actually tell people exactly what my show is about? Ask yourself, do my episode titles sound like something my listener would actually search for in Google or use AI to look for that topic? Is my podcast description clear? Is it specific about the transformation that I offer? You can't really attract listeners if they don't understand what you're offering. For example, if your show is about helping introverted entrepreneurs find their voice, then you'll want to say that directly in your description and your title. So don't bury it under vague terms like inspiration or mindset and things like that. Because when someone's scrolling through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, they're not looking for inspiration. They're looking for answers. So try to have those answers embedded in questions or Q&A form in your titles. Your clarity makes you discoverables. And over time, that clarity builds trust, because when people know what to expect from you, they keep coming back. And then I just want to share that you should use what you already have. And that's something that we tend to know these things as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. We know to use what we have. It's called just being a good steward of our belongings and being a good manager of our equipment and what we have, being able to take an inventory and know what's available so that we don't overspend or so that we're not inefficient. But I know this is practical, but when you're starting from zero, you have to use the resources you already have. You don't need to drop thousands of dollars on marketing. You just need to show up where you already have community. And that might mean that you share your episodes in smaller Facebook groups. Initially, you want to share, if you're inside of a coaching program, you may want to share it there, or even in your church community if you're faith-based, or where you volunteer in your community, share it with them. So use the resources and the community that you already are tapped into to share your episodes. If you have an email list, even if it's just 10 people, send your latest episode with a short note about why it might help them. Okay, don't be afraid to make this a personal thing. You can even text your episode to a friend. Tell them, hey, I recorded this episode and I thought of you. I would love your feedback. So I just think that's so important. It's a gesture that spreads your show, but it also invites people into your journey. So do not be afraid to share. Because what most podcasters forget is that your first audience isn't built, it's invited. You've got to be willing to invite others to be part of your journey before you think of building out and scaling and having massive audiences. So don't think massive, think one-on-one, think small. At first, start where you are, utilize the resources you have available, and then think big as you begin to grow and scale. Another thing you might want to do is to borrow audiences, but just be sure to do it the right way. And one of the best strategies when you're brand new to your field or to your podcasting is to collaborate. You don't need to land a feature on a massive show. It's nice if you can, but you don't need that. You just need to connect with other small podcasters in your niche. Offer to be a guest or invite them onto your show and swap shout outs. Do a joint Instagram live, because really it's not about competition. It's about community. And I call this borrowing the room. You get to walk into someone else's digital space, share your message, and connect with their audience, who might really just become part of yours. And the best part is that these collaborations often turn into friendships, partnerships, or future opportunities. So look for other creators who share your vibe and your values, of course, and start building together. And then let's get real about these downloads, okay? If you've got 10 listeners, imagine standing in a room with 10 people who choose to hear you. That is incredible, my friend. We've been conditioned to chase these big numbers, thousands of followers, hundreds of reviews, but podcasting isn't about mass appeal. It's actually about meaningful reach. Who can we reach and make a difference? When someone listens to your show, that is a level of attention that you just can't buy. So I encourage you to celebrate the small beginnings. Those first listeners are your early adopters. And so treat them well, respond to all their messages, thank them personally, maybe even shout them out in an episode. And that's how you build loyalty. One little secret I have is that podcasters who grow the fastest are not the ones with the flashiest content. They're the ones who actually stay consistent. Consistency is something we hear all the time, and it gets kind of old because we've heard it so much, but it beats virality every single time. So just stick with it. If you take nothing else from this episode, I want it to be this, that you don't have to be known to start. You become known by starting. So get started. When you put your voice out there, people begin to associate your name with your message. And that's how personal brand authority is built, episode by episode. So instead of saying, nobody knows me, start saying, I'm in the process of being discovered. And that one mindset shift will change how you show up behind the mic. Remember also that even the biggest podcasters you know started with 0 downloads. And the only difference between you and them is time and consistency. So here's what I want you to take away today is that you don't need an audience to start right away. You just need to understand how your podcast creates that audience. Speak to one person at a time and not to thousands, and know that your connection will grow that community. Focus on clarity before you focus on growth, because clear podcasts is what attracts loyal listeners. Use what you already have, your community, your voice, your message, and borrow audiences through collaboration. So build together. Finally, celebrate every single listener, because the people who show up for you at the beginning are often the ones who'll be with you for the long haul. All right, my friend, that's it for today's episode. If this resonated with you, or if you have a question about your own podcast journey, I would love to hear from you. I am working on a couple of projects right now, something that I'm hoping will be completed in a few weeks from now. This is mid to late October as I'm recording this, so I am definitely on a deadline. Things have been a little bit challenging for me as I have been juggling multiple jobs at the moment, in addition to running Soul Podcasting Collective. So that's just life. And I haven't gotten around to doing all of the tasks that I need to in order to complete my project. But that is something I'm working on personally. And I wonder what you're working on. I'd love to hear from you. Head over to soulpodcasting.com. Leave me a voice note. I might feature it in an upcoming episode if you wish. And if you're ready to take your podcast to the next level, I want you to grab my free resource. It's the Launch Confidently Podcasting Checklist. And it's your step-by-step roadmap to creating a show that's not just popular, but purposeful. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode and interview with Aurora. And our next episode will be another one-on-one chat. And then after that, we'll have another interview. Don't forget to rate and leave a review for this podcast. I'd love for you to do that either in Spotify or Apple Podcasts to let them know that this show is helpful and meaningful in the area of podcasting, and that has been a support for you. So do me a favor, leave that review, and there will be instructions in the show notes on just how to do that. Until next time, my friend, keep showing up, keep sharing your voice, and as always, keep podcasting with soul. Happy podcasting.